Hey, wanted to say what a treat to hear Matt Lake. Wasn't that something? Wow. So, we get a chance to hear him again tonight, and I'm just sitting back and just soaking that all up. So, it is interesting. It's really great to have Matt, who's pastor, teacher, brings a sensitivity to the pastorate. I've been a pastor for a lot of years myself, of course, but I think what he talked about as far as the blending of gifting, I think is wise and profound. That we really do need blending of gifting today, and it is interesting. Each person has a particular makeup where I feel like God does a work in that gifting, and Matt is some things that I am not, and I really recognize that. He has some strengths that I do not have, and I know that the Lord has kind of shaped me in a certain way, and what I've tried to do is to be faithful to that niche, to kind of that calling. And it's a good word for all of us, right? It's a good word for all of us because you are leaders and influencers. You are powerful players in the kingdom of God. Bring what God is doing in you to your people, and He will use it. But I am going to try to be faithful to that calling here this morning and to share from my heart in this last session some of the things that the Lord has brought to me, things that I have fought for, wrestled with. And so I want to pray too. Lord, I just want to lift up the teaching, just ask that you be over it. And God, Lord, that we would receive from you, Lord, what you would have us to receive. And we just pray for that. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to tell you a story happened in my family, and when our kids were a little bit younger, when we had come into the area that we live now, which is Corona, Southern California. My kids were doing sports, and baseball was one of them. So one Pony League season, they have the first meeting of all the parents. And so, there you are. I was a church planter, okay? So we had not yet planted the church. So when you show up at a meeting of all these parents and you're a church planter, of course, you're thinking, all right, there they are. There's my congregation, because I don't have any. And we actually parachute dropped into that one, so I literally did not have a team when we planted that church, so to begin with. So, there we are, and I just remember, looking at the crowd that had gathered, and I'm looking through, and then, I see there's a mom, and she has a sweatshirt on, and her sweatshirt says, "Baseball first." Okay? Baseball first. And so my response of that was, oh my gosh, what is wrong with our culture? Baseball first. I mean, we all know God is first, right? Christ is first. So, I'm kind of going through this kind of thing, and then I, share that out with the family, and that's the talk of the morning, the baseball first sweatshirt. But as the day progressed, and as I was kind of mulling on it a little bit more, I started to think a little bit differently about it. I started to think about what that said. Here was a family that had made a determination, a decision, that for this season of life for their child, baseball was first. And that meant some things. No complaining about coming early to practice or that extra time at the batting cages. No bitching about travel ball, right? As to equipment, they would be getting the very best equipment for their child. They had made a decision that for this season of their life, they were all in for baseball. And I thought about that, and the more I processed it, the more I kind of began to think of it as admirable. Here's a family that had made a priority decision. And then I thought about some of the challenge that we're facing in the church. And, I thought, one of our problems or one of our challenges in the church is that we don't know what's first. Now, you may have right away disagreed with that. But if we were to throw this out on the internet, throw this into a post, and had Christians respond from different places, honestly and candidly, what are some things that people would say are first? Family. Family is first. Okay, that's one. What else? Country could be first. You guys went wide as opposed to going spiritual. So what in the spirit? What inside the church? What's first? What was that? The kingdom. Okay, that's a priority perspective, right? I like that one, by the way. I like that.
Our mission. We have a mission in our church that sucks the air out of the room.
Thank you. Thank you. We're circling back to you on what you just said. But what are some other ones? I mean, my gosh, I'm telling you, I train across the country. I talk with churches, and I meet with Christians, and I train with Christians all over the place. And I've got to tell you, there is no one answer. Jesus is first, okay? But what are some of the other things? Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's first. That's the most important thing. And if that changes, I'm gone, right? That's what we're up against. Did you? Numbers. Oh, numbers are success. Success is first. We got to have success. But, there's a lot of things that we could put in there too. Spiritual growth is first, right? Bible knowledge is first. Prayer is first. The gifts of the Holy Spirit are first. So, circling back. Yeah, I know not everybody agrees with this, but I believe when you really think about it, you put it all together, gospel mission is first. Gospel mission is first. Gospel mission obeys the prime directive of Jesus on what we are to do right now, to what we are to fulfill before he returns. We are to expand the kingdom and raise those people up in the kingdom who can do what? Do what? Expand the kingdom. So the glory of God that comes to Jesus, that comes to the Father through what the Son has done. Was the cross, did it mean nothing? I mean, sometimes I have these conversations with, a non-believer, and sometimes, man, he didn't go to the cross for nothing. You need to think about this. You need to think about the significance of what happens here in this story. The glory of God happens through the spread of the gospel. And we also become Christ-like. We take on the heart of Christ. We take on the compassion of Christ for the lost. You know, I shared with my workshop just my perspective on marriage. You know, been married for a lot of years. But when I first got married, I had that kind of reaction. God, I can't believe 50% don't make it. And then after being married for a little while, I said, I can't believe 50% do. And I came to view marriage as a gift. It was God's gift to move me or force me into love. And I really think that the mission of Christ is similar to that. What does it do? It moves us out of ourselves. It moves us out where we're the main focus so that we look at others and we grow in love. And so I want to share some thoughts here. Let's see. Oh, I got it. That wasn't you, right? Okay. I've got my little clicker here. Yeah, I wanted to share some thoughts, and can I'm going to be talking about a mission path here today, and I designed a mission path. I had Sandals asked me to design a discipling mission path for them. There was a discipleship path. I ended up calling it a mission path. And so, but anyways, we are going to get into that. But one of our gentlemen here had asked me a candid question, and that question was, as you go around and you talk to pastors and try to see some things happen and see some things implemented in their churches, what kind of response do you get? Does everybody jump on board? And the answer is no. So I'll tell you a story. I was trained for 1 year. A church hired me for a year to train their leaders and some of their church planters. And so I'm working with them. But in all those trainings, senior pastor never showed up. And I heard the murmurs of the leaders who wanted more leadership from the top. And so when the Mennonite Brethren asked me to do their national conference in the Midwest, that was right in Kansas City where this church was located, 2,000-member church, I stayed an extra day to go to the church service to meet with the pastor, to connect with him. And so on that service, I show up. They have baptisms. So great. Get a chance to see the baptisms. And so we ended up watching 2 services. In over 2 services, 6 were baptized. It's a 2,000-member church. 4 were young kids. Okay, so, hey, do we rejoice in baptisms? I mean, was I rejoicing? I mean, we heard testimonies. It was great. Pastor was giddy about the 10-year-old's testimony, and it was just like so great. But I got to tell you, do you think I was feeling giddy about what I was seeing there? 2,000 members, and I asked, how many times do you have baptism? Is that like every week or every, because then 6 would be okay. Oh no, twice a year. And maybe they've had some other times or they've had more, but that was a picture of unhealth to me. I tried to reach to that pastor to say, you know what, and honestly, I would say, we'll quadruple those numbers. Not that we're all about numbers here. We're about souls. We're about people. We're about reaching people. We'll quadruple them. And we might even see your church move up about tenfold over time. But there would need to be some significant change that would happen in that beautiful, attractional church. But you know what was needed more than anything else? Was the openness of that pastor to do some things differently and to embrace a different way to go about it. It's not the easiest thing to change in the church, especially when you've had some success with the model that you've been working. And so, hey, this is a graphic here. This comes from, I gotta get that on there. This comes from Adam Grant's book, Think Again. Think Again, okay? And so, anyways, he has this little model here, belief in your tools, belief in yourself. He's talking about leaders. And, so some of these different categories. And, what Grant is kind of arguing for is that, the ideal place for us to be is the fourth quadrant over here, which is confident humility, which is belief in yourself, but uncertain of your tools. That's the place of teachability, of adaptability, of growing and learning. But what he said, what happens in leadership often, we see belief in yourself and then certainty in your tools. And what is that? Blind arrogance. Blind arrogance. And sometimes I've been in situations where I feel like a pastor is in that quadrant. They are so confident in the way they have done it, that is the way to do it, and that will achieve the end, that they stopped being teachable and pliable to move and to shift and to improve the training and the equipping, the empowering of their people. All right, so I'm sharing, this is personal. This is the challenge of my ministry, okay? And so you got all the feel like, hey, wow, not everyone's jumping on board. No, they're not. No, they're not. I see more resistance to change than I see willingness to change and humility to grow and to become a better leader. And if there's ever a time we needed to change and rethink what we're doing, it's now. All right, so, hey, I needed to touch on a couple things. I wanted to say that what happened in the time that I spent with two skeptics ended up creating a way to think about evangelism. And I wanted to talk about this because I'm wanting to give you a little bit of a feel for the type of training that would need to take place. And I don't see a lot of churches doing it, but the type of training that would need to take place if the body is to become healthier in a missional sense. And so, this breakdown of what happens with the relational evangelism process is something I learned by doing. Meaning I engaged, I saw some things, I saw the way it worked, I saw how God used it, and then I ended up going to my whiteboard and just putting it into as simple as a formula or equation as possible. And so this is really what came out of my time with two skeptics, spent time meeting with an atheist, and that was a 9-month journey, and then with a theistic skeptic, somebody who didn't believe Jesus was God. And in the time there, 9 months, 6 months, 2 weeks apart, both of those people came into the faith. And when that happened, I went to my whiteboard and I diagrammed what happened, because there was a whole bunch of things that had happened that I had never seen before. But the basic breakdown of execution, when you're engaged in a relational evangelism process, when you're one of your members, it breaks into some stages. And like, am I wanting to make it more difficult than it is? No. This is the way it works. This is the way it works in the relational evangelism process. There's 3 stages. There's a beginning part. We call it the torch. You have to light a conversation. You have to start a relationship with somebody. And that part is not easy for a lot of believers to do. We cannot just ignore that. One of the churches that I was trying to help, they had done a video series, and it was called Making It Known. Making It Known. You know, making the gospel known. And it was like, oh man, I loved it. I said, that's so great. And also the video was putting the spotlight on the people, and I thought that was great. But I said, hey, I'm going to watch all 36 of these videos, since they're doing this, and glean what I can from it. And so I'm watching all the videos, and beautiful heart that's expressed, and there was so much nice stuff in it. But I found myself asking one question. Whom are you making it known to? Video after video was Christians expressing the desire to reach their neighbors, the desire to reach somebody over there at Vaughn's, the desire to reach someone, a student who had asked a question in a class, the heart and the desire for it, but nobody is in an ongoing kind of relationship with anyone. And so this first part is so important. The trail and the traction, we'll get to it. But I just want to say, this is David, okay? This is the atheist friend that I spent time with, 9 months. And he came into the faith. How did that happen? It simply happened this way. Me just framing up a time to get together with him. We call it framing. Framing. Just a chance for us to get together, okay? And I would love to share a little bit about my beliefs. I'd love to learn a little bit about what you believe too, or the lack of belief, right? I wanted to understand him. That was all it was. It was simple. But it started us on this journey together. Framing. This is my mom friend. And so how did this happen? I had a chance to just go out for dinner with he and his wife, and there were some people, other Christians who were with him who had been reaching out to him, which was great. And wonderful dinner. We had really nice time. But I knew that this wouldn't go anywhere. I mean, meeting one time and having a nice time was that. But if this wanted to go someplace where we could get to a place where influence would happen, I needed to do something. I needed to frame up a time to get together with him. So what did I do? Call over to the mosque. Hi, I'm Gary. I loved our time, together. I'm a leader. You're a leader. How'd you like to get together just for a cup of coffee, get to know each other a little more personally? And then when we're there at the Starbucks, what do? You're framing it again. I'm framing it again. And I do this all the time. How'd you like to get together? How would you like to get together each week? I'd like to learn more about Islam, and I'd love to share some of what I believe in my Christian faith with you. And so he said, yeah, let's do it. So we've been meeting for over a few years. So much has happened. We've watched Jesus of Nazareth. We've watched that up on his wall inside his house. And we've had deep, deep conversations. He's very entrenched, but this story's not over. So, but I'm just giving you a couple examples. Oh boy. I want to go back and just want to torch, trail, traction. Torch, you start it. Trail, a journey. How do you journey with somebody? And then how do you get to the place of traction? Okay? And so traction, what is that? How do you get to a place where you break through and actually reach them? And that, each one of these has its own set of skills. And so that's what we taught, and that's what we teach. And the reason why is because we want people to be effective. We want them in relationship, but we also want to give them the tools that they can go about doing this. And so what I knew about that one church that I saw, that church, as big as it was, as great as it was not training its people well. And its people were not really engaged in a real way in relationship. That's a challenge, right? In the positioning skills, I have lines of dialogue. Here's ways to create dialogue. Very important. How do you get conversations moving in a productive kind of way? Not to lead them to faith right then, but just to get that conversation moving. And those are ways to connect. So there's a lot there to learn. So what I wanted to do, outreach ministry, compassion ministry. Matt had shared the passage from Matthew about Jesus' compassion. These are evaluation tools that I work with compassion leaders on. I basically say you got to look at people with 3 levels of need. If we want to show compassion and love to people out in the cities, in our areas, there's 3 levels of human need, and life condition, relational, and spiritual formation. I did some research on this, and what I found was that many churches, this was hands-on research, but many churches who were involved in trying to meet needs in their city, they were only meeting life condition needs. They were only helping people with whatever that issue was, hunger or safety or shelter. But the relational part and then the spiritual formation part, those are next level needs. And that required the right kind of ministry vision to be able to engage with people in an ongoing way so that relationship would form and that there would be the opportunity for these things. And so we work with compassion leaders along those lines. You can see how you integrate the relational approach everywhere. So, hey, just wanted to show something, and I wanted to introduce something, and I'm going to show a little video part of it. It's something that God backed me into. I have been involved, or I've helped a ministry in Texas, and I've worked with them, a discipling ministry, and they asked me to do a video training for their curriculum program. And so, anyways, I wanted to say that we created a resource. I wasn't planning on doing it. I wasn't thinking about doing this. But I really felt like God came over it. It's what it is. It's a way for churches to train their people in evangelistic engagement. They called it influence. And so it's ultimately about that. And I'm just going to show just a couple. This is the workbook. This is what it looks like. Kind of loved it. There's the relational evangelism process. And I'd love to show you just a little clip from it. The leader of this ministry is a part of that. But I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit of what we did. And if there's an opportunity, if you're interested to get the updates, because it's coming out probably 2 or 3 months. If you're interested, there's a QR code for it. So let's go ahead and shoot it.
be at some place in their beliefs, and they may have particular convictions or views. And honor enables us to be able to kind of honor them as a person, but at the same time, not shut down a conversation by coming across, too judgmental or too exclusive. I may be able to honor my imam friend for his his devoutness, really, in his faith, and also for the quality of a person he is. But it doesn't mean I believe in, of course, what he believes as far as Islam goes. But I'm able to bring honor. I can honor I honored my atheist friend for his intellect. See, honor is really important. He was smart. David was so smart, and I honored him for that. But at the same time, was working that conversation to get him to use his smarts to figure out why it is there are so many reasons to believe in God. And so, but honor, see, enables you to journey with someone without kind of shutting it down. And so there is a place for friction, where, we're challenging what they think. We're challenging their conclusions. There's friction, you see. But if it's within a relationship that has safety, you can do that. You can challenge those convictions. Even if they don't believe it at the time, you still can speak into it. And you can get to the place where you can confront those inconsistencies. Those are important for having influence, because you are going to come up against those at times. Sometimes people just are trapped by different beliefs that are really false, and we need to be able to help them over those. So being prayerful in the journey, being committed to them, not giving up, staying in the game, trusting that God will change the heart. I have a saying, what can't happen today can happen tomorrow. I learned that doing the REP. I learned to wait on God to do His work, to reach people. And so I want to bring up Laura, though, and have her share a little bit of her own personal story. Yeah, Laura, why don't you share a little bit just about the person who had reached out to you?
Yeah, I grew up going to a church, but I did not have a personal relationship with Jesus. What I did have is a lot of pride in my denomination and the fact that I was part of that. Mm-hmm. And so my friend Jules, she sat next to me in marketing. She positioned herself. She started a relationship. We had that in common. And then that's how it started off. It was just like, hey, let's do this project together. Hey, let's, do whatever. She was never shy about her faith. No. She also didn't beat me over the head with it or tell me how mine was wrong or how I needed this or that. But she would weave it into our conversations. Mm-hmm. And I was not the person who came to relationship with Jesus instantly. Mm-hmm. It took 10 years.
Wow. Yeah.
10 long
10 long years. Yeah. 10 is crazy. Yeah. 10 years. That's not really the story for most people, right? And usually with an RP. Yeah. Yes.
Would you be so kind? I'm sorry, I missed the oral or the thing. Would it be possible at some point to put that maybe up again?
The QR code, can we put that back up? Yeah, so, one of the reasons I really love this is, okay, so what did I do with it? This is I call this the John 4 Mission Training Template. It is 6 sessions. This ministry didn't want it short. They wanted content. So they're about 40 to 45 minute sessions. And we've got a beautiful workbook. It is a study in John 4 that teaches much of some of the soul whisperer remission concepts, all from that passage. But I wanted to provide it for churches so that pastors could train their people and use it. And it's cheap. I mean, just to think about doing this, it'll be between $200 to $300. We haven't set the price. It's cheap. And it's a way for you to train and gather your people. So it's coming out 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not in this for money. I've never been in it for money. I'm in it for influence. I want to see Christians equipped. And this actually gets into a lot of conversation. And Laura, it tells her story, and we bring her in. I loved it. So praying that God uses it. I'm grateful. So did everyone get a chance on that? Okay. So, whoa. There we go. Got it. How to raise mission quotient. Shift the vision from vertical to horizontal, from center to epicenter. From the church just being the mission center where everything happens in the service, to, okay, we still want that. We still want the impact of the service. The teaching ministry of the pastor is very important. We want all of that, the gathering, the worship, it's all important. But the church overall is really shifting to being an epicenter. They're equipping their people and sending their people out so that their people are effective in reaching people who are outside us. That's what's happening. Reframe evangelism as spiritual formation. And you've heard me on that. Tie discipleship to skills. Create structures for engagement learning. I interviewed Mike Lee with the Remission video series. He said this: when you build something like this, you have to, in a way, feed the beast. So that's a church in Raleigh, 15,000 members. When you create a church like this, you have to feed the beast. There's certain things that they expect. You have to meet those expectations. His heart was to see the church become less consumeristic and more mobilized. So his heart, the reason why he participated in this is because his heart was to do so, but he also was acknowledging it's difficult to do so. How do you do it? How do you do it? So here's just 2 columns. Take a look at this just for a second. So the Mandalic current, so could be your current either traditional or attractional. Certainly attractional is going to be in there. The Mandalic current, Mandalic kind of local church. And here the Sidalic, more apostolic thinking, okay? More apostolic thinking. And so just to look at the comparison going across, focus, the church as center, okay? The church as epicenter. Main equipping, stage inspiration, the sermons. Training, the equipping side for the Sidalic, training apparatus, system and structures that are supporting training, a whole structure for training. Event-oriented, member engagement-oriented. I say the event of the future church, the effective future church, the event is the engagement of the members. That's the event. And if we get that event to happen, guess what? All sorts of other great things can happen. And when you have your event, guess what? Other people outside the church will come. Attractional service, attractional with providing a service, missional disciple-making vehicles, quantitative measurements versus qualitative measurements. Qualitative, where we're really looking at the discipleship of our people. Not the numbers, not how many people are filling seats, but what is really going on with them. Hierarchical leadership, horizontal empowerment, spotlight the pastors, perhaps the leaders, perhaps the ministries, can be a little bit of all that. Spotlight the people. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. And celebration in the church changes too. What you celebrate, how you lift up the engagement of the body, it all changes. So mission path. So I wanted to share with you what I did with a mission path, and I'm going to give you some graphs, and you're going to get a chance to look at this really quick. But here's the benefits. Here's the reasons I think that any church leader that really got serious about the mission formation of their people, that spiritual mission formation, why a mission path would benefit their church. Okay, so here's reasons. Train disciples, not the token. We call sometimes the evangelism class that nobody attends, okay, or few attend. We have called that in churches the token tack on. The token tack on. We want to kind of move away from that. And instead, what we want is actually a training. Oh, that moved. Oops. Yeah, I am pushing it, but it is not going. Can you move it there? Just stop working. There we go. Yeah, think differently. It's a mission path is what the leaders have decided in the church, not the church consumers deciding. Here's another thing that we have critiqued. Large churches do what we've called smorgasbord Christianity, where they offer electives for their people, classes and more groups and classes. All it does is feed consumerism. Another Bible study, another thing. Leadership in the church leadership decides what it is that they want all their people to learn and grow in. And some of those things will not be things your people would sign up for. They will be areas, though, they need to grow. And if they grow in those areas, there will be fruit. And you can do it in a loving way. But leadership doesn't make it a consumeristic thing. It says there's a path, and we are committed to this. We're driving a stake in the ground, our church, for these values, for this type of growth and development. We want to engage in this learning together. So tracking mechanism, it enables your teams, and I encourage you to build teams. It enables your teams to look at what's happening with the body and where people are and where they need input and feedback. Can you imagine an NFL team that did not coach and instruct its players on the field on how to perform better? It takes input and feedback and some coaching and some mirroring, right? Wow, mate, you need to suck a breath mint every once in a while, or just, gosh, your response is it feels so hostile. You might not sense it, but you need to understand, you need to soften. You need to learn how to soften. This type of feedback's important for people to grow. Tracking mechanism, close the back door. Definitely it's going to help you to get people engaged with what you're doing and to stick with you. Mission mobilization, obviously, it's about mobilizing people into mission. Increased stewardship. Stewardship is a part of this teaching path. We think it will help that to happen. And then infrastructural development. In a way, it's a form. It's almost like an architectural formation inside, a design inside your church that you're building and developing, that's ongoing, that's working for you to do the mission. So, this is some ways that I developed a step in, step on, step up, step out, step in. Okay, non-believers. What do we want to have happen? We want non-believers to step in. We want to do, and there's lots of vehicles and lots of efforts, and there's all sorts of stuff, the REP's in there, all those things that we're doing to reach people. But then when they step in to the faith, we want them to step on. And on to what? Onto your discipleship path. See? Your church, you have something for them to step onto. And it's not just one class. It's a series, and it's progressive, and it will develop them to step on and then to step up. Because as they grow, there's going to need to come a time when they need more challenge to raise the bar, to grow in other ways. So they need to step up and then to step out. So this is a way we work the path. I started by identifying these 6 main values: spiritual formation, authenticity, community, knowledge, mission, and stewardship. And then we filled it out with what that looked like. And what's not in here, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So what we did is we did instruction, but we didn't just do instruction. We include engagement in the path. Do you hear what I'm saying? Engagement. So what does that mean? Somebody tell me. You're going to go do it. They're not just learning. We want them to grow, right? And so we're building structures, and we're going to go do it. And we're going to learn. And we're going to be involved in the REP. We're going to be involved in outreach ministries. We're going to be involved in some different types of evangelistic vehicles. We're going to be doing this. And we're getting our people moving out so that the learning and the growth happens there. How to create buy-in, clarity of vision, so important. The vision of the leader. And many of you are pastors, and I want to tell you, you have a special office. Your people depend upon you and your vision, and it's a challenge today. But we need your mind, and we need your creativity. We need you to bring all that you can bring, for that vision development and that vision casting. Conviction of leadership. We have a phrase that we've used in my ministry. It's called the deep well. The deep well. And the deep well is when the conviction of the leader is so big about what it is that they want to do that not only does it sustain them in their ministry, but it's big enough for others to drink from. And that is the significance of leadership, that others can then receive from you and know it deep, deep. Oh, credibility of content. Sorry on that. Credibility of content. I think the test for credibility of content does it work? Is it relatable? Does it fit the skin of your people? If you're helping them to engage, then they need to feel comfortable with that. They need to be able to know they can step into that can be them. It's authentic to them. It's natural to them. So credibility of content, and that it's effectual, and that it works. And we have to ask that question, is the equipping that we're doing, is it actually producing new disciples? Are we reaching people? Are we raising them up? And are we sending more? And I have to mention this, and this is just so critical. One of the things that is a mission path, it's so amazing to see what happens when a church gets the evangelism fire going, right? And that kindling's happening, and the church is doing a lot of different things, and it's doing the REP, which I think is really critical, that relational engagement. But we have different things that are happening, and we start to see fruit, and we have new believers. And so what is so wonderful about new believers in a church? What is great? What? And, yeah, fire, enthusiasm. And what do new believers have? What do new believers have that a lot of mature Christians do not have? Yeah. They have all these contacts and these networks of relationships. That is why evangelism is so important, right? And your effectiveness, because it creates a movemental type of ripple. We did one of our first steps classes, which is the step on, right? That's the first one, first steps. We're discipling our newer believers. But in one of the classes, we asked them, there are a lot of them there, and we asked them, how many of your friends are outside the faith? And one of them raised his hand and said, all of them. And I just thought, all of them. Wow. What an opportunity. It's why it's so important. But I hope you do recognize the path is holistic. Hey, I want spiritual formation to happen. I want maturity. I want growth. I want to see them become stewards. I want to see them grow in community and fellowship. I teach all of that. First Steps teach all of that. I don't disregard that. I think that there's a lot of things that are vital and important, but they are really in a way meant to be nurturing aspects that are in a way help us to grow. They're in a way subservient to Christ-likeness and to ultimate mission fulfillment. So I'd like to close just with a couple things. One is just to say, I watched, this will date me a little bit, but there used to be a show, do you remember Fear Factor? Oh, a lot of you, oh yeah, this is cool. So Fear Factor. So my all-time favorite Fear Factor, and I always watch that show, and I always thought it was so cool, but it was my ultimate fear. It was, they had this couple, husband and wife, and what they had to do was there was like a glass type container that was filled with these about 1.5 to 2 inch roaches. Okay, so the one person had to, one of the spouses had to reach their head down into the bucket and grab the roaches with their mouth and then transfer them over to their spouse and to fill up the other bin. $50,000. What would you do for $50,000? Not that. That is what I'm saying, not that. But I always will remember seeing the wife look at the husband in his eyes, look at him and say, we got this. I mean, just look at, we got this. I love that, the confidence, the conviction, we could do, oh yeah, they won it. They won it. Yeah, they won it. Yeah, oh no, that was no boast. We got this. But I want to say this. I actually think that in this crazy, challenging time that we face, we are not alone. There is a God who is over us, and Jesus promised, I will be with you in this commission until the end. He said, we got this. So let's trust him, and let's grow and stretch. Let's overcome our fears. Let's do what has to be done. Just going to close with what I wrote in remission at the end. Mission matters to precious lost souls. It matters to members' discipleship. It matters for the church's vitality. It matters for heaven's joy. It matters for God's expanding glory. It matters for your crown. It matters for in all these ways, it matters forever.